Jim.
Hi, Bob. How you doing?
Doing good.
Good, good.
Let's see here. Oh, yeah, there's Chuck. Oh, lots of the usual suspects here. Okay. Mike is out of the state and having connectivity problems. So I'm going to go ahead and give my try at helping run a Zoom meeting tonight. But I have lots of competent help helping me out. So that's good.
There's no hair.
John, I like your haircut. It's a good summer dew. Fall, summer dew.
I cut all of them, not just one. So
I know, you did a great job.
Right. All right.
Good movie.
Hey, welcome everybody. Looks like it is 6 p.m. here about. So
5:59.
yeah, yep, just now 6. So we'll go ahead and get started. And again, Mike found out just a little while ago that he was having problems for tonight as well, and he could not join the meetings this afternoon very well either. It was a real problem. So anyway, we're having a work session until about 7 o'clock tonight. We have 3 items on the agenda, as I think most of you know. The school district update with Karen and Mitch, welcome, and library landscape project bids, and the public works facility project 1 bid. So with that, Karen and Mitch, go ahead and take it away. I'm assuming there's nothing I have to add at this point, John or Andy. Okay. Go ahead, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us tonight. I'm going to share my screen and I've got just some short slides. I'd love to share some celebrations, some challenges, and then talk about our upcoming bond, as well as I understand it'd be interesting to talk a little bit about the track at Building 103, or the former middle school. And I'll keep my comments and Mitch's comments very short so we can answer any questions. I want to make sure we meet the needs of council and getting you information that you would like. So give me a minute while I share my screen. And just a minute here. And I'm going to check. Can you guys see the slide deck that I have?
There we go.
Awesome. Thank you. It's nothing fancy. Trust me. I just thought it's always more fun to look at pictures instead of a talking head the whole time. So in terms of very exciting celebrations, well, first, the school year has begun, and we are so glad to have kids here and be hired and have fantastic educators here. We have a really big focus this year on what I would call experiential and engaging instruction. We're focusing on getting kids outside in our amazing mountain community and really building community and relationships within our kids, especially at the elementary levels. You see some pictures here. There's our adorable preschoolers out on the new turf at Carlson. The middle picture, we've got our King Murphy kids practicing some of the crew elements. Respect is one of them. That's at Elk Meadow. The entire school went to Elk Meadow on the second day of school. And then I'm not sure if you can see it because I'm moving my pictures around a little bit, but just the entryway into the middle school, high school, the kids like to do chalk murals. And it was so inspiring just to welcome them back. Our 2 elementaries are part of a rural schools network. That was a competitive process they applied for and got into. And that's all about transforming what teaching and learning looks like so that it is more connected to our community and relevant and engaging for kids, and they achieve at high levels. So when they leave us, they have amazing opportunities, whether it's college or work or whatever it may be. You may have heard, or maybe not, we were recently recognized by the Colorado Succeeds for the Succeeds Prize. My husband had no idea what that meant. And I said, it's like the Grammys. It's so cool. So we're thrilled to have won that. It's for career explorations and pathways. And I have to say a huge thank you to many people on this Zoom right now, because this is all about our community partnerships. We would not have even been considered for this award if we didn't have strong community partnerships. So we're really grateful, especially right in the town of Idaho Springs, which is kind of the heart of so much of what we're doing. And then just over here at Floyd Hill, where Mitch and I are sitting, we're in the conference room at the middle school, high school. We've got our first mountain bike team ever, which is pretty cool. We've got a new trail that is open to the community that kids are using during the day for outdoor learning experiences. And then the track and stadium is open. When I've been down running on the track, I seem to be bumping into neighbors, and that's just kind of a cool thing. So just wanted to stress that. So those are all the happy things. We probably, like many businesses and organizations, have challenges this year. We're working through each one of them. I would say the pandemic learning, really, this is the third school year that our kids have been impacted by the pandemic. And I'm just going to call it out. That's hard. Our kids are amazing. Our educators are amazing. Our community is amazing. It's just an emotional thing to be in the third year of this. And you see Mitch and I are wearing masks. We're over at the high school. It's just an emotional thing. And yet our kids are coming to school learning every single day. We post FAQs and resources on our website frequently. I was just telling Mitch, it seems like with some of the protocols that we've put in place, and I know there's folks who love it and other folks who are like, eek, not so much. Information seems to change daily. And so we update our FAQs frequently. Hiring's been a challenge, although we actually just hired in transportation. It seems to be operations. I understand that's kind of across the school districts. I don't know if we're experiencing that just across all organizations, but custodial and transportation were kind of our pain points. And then while we are in a much better place this week, the start of school was very challenging with incredibly hot classrooms over at the middle school, high school, and water. We discovered we had a hot water tank, second one. We actually had one last year, but this year too, that was sending us some water that was not such a lovely color. We had shifted to using El Dorado Springs for about 2 weeks. And then just got our test results back and everything looks awesome. But I wanted to call those things out. That's been really interesting on top of just running school in general. So now just some facts around the bond, and folks may or may not have heard the Board of Education voted to put a bond question on the ballot for November. And this right here that you see is actually from our website. We've got FAQs up, as well as lots and lots of links for information. If the slide deck's in your packet, you've got links. If not, I know Jonathan's got it and can certainly make sure you guys have it, because I don't want to get too far into the weeds. But really what we're doing is we're looking to go further than the last bond did. The 2018 bond was fantastic. Not a tax increase, but it did allow us to add playgrounds and boilers and just a lot of kind of urgent needs, some roofing work. We've dug in deep over the last year and a half, thanks to some folks that we've hired who have really got great experience in facilities, and identified a number of things that if we are not fixing them or changing them, the cost just gets higher. So through that process, as well as talking with each school community, identified the projects that you see on the screen. It's a $33 million bond. Every community or every school gets some love in it, but to varying amounts depending on what the needs are. Georgetown Community School, and I'll go into kind of what that is, or actually it's up above, is really about some interior and exterior improvements, as well as providing the opportunity where they can improve their food service at GCS. Over at King Murphy, I joke, but not really. It's taken them out of the early 80s and bringing them into 2021, 2022 and beyond. There's a lot of items over there that are original, and doors, for example, where handles are kind of falling apart, and the gym is got peeling paint and floor that's coming up. So some pretty big needs over there. At the middle school and high school, which got the most love in this last bond, it's about improving some of the safety features, as well as putting lights on the field. We will have lights for homecoming this Friday night, hoping that, folks come over and enjoy it, but they're rented lights. And so we'd like to be able to put the lights in. We did, when we built it, we queued everything up so that we didn't have to dig it up again. And I'm not going to use the right terms. Mitch probably knows it, but everything's in place to then actually put the lights in, if that makes sense. And then the biggest one, which hopefully is the most interesting to Idaho Springs, is in what we call Building 103, which is really the former middle school, high school in Idaho Springs. The picture on the screen is renovating that to put an elementary school in there, and potentially begin to get it ready for other items that could be beneficial to the community. And I won't go into a ton of detail there because I'm more curious to hear what the questions are around that. But those are the main things. I'll go to my last slide on the track, and then I'll pause so you guys can ask anything you want. And I understand from, I don't remember who it was with the city who had asked, but they had said, why don't you talk about the track? And as you know, we've got a track that's just south of the former middle school. Lots of possibilities. It seems like as we've talked about it as a school board, as well as talked with the city, talked with the county, two ideas seem to be the most interesting to people. One is potential housing. The other one is it could be the new location for the bus barn, or transportation maintenance facility. Just sounds fancier, but really it's the bus barn. We want to make sure when that decision is made, it makes sense given the needs of the overall community. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to put it so both Mitch and I are paying attention and answer whatever questions we can on that really fast information that I shared with you.
Okay, council or staff, I don't have any questions personally right at this point. So Chuck or anybody else, please speak up.
I did have a question as to how you had arrived at the 24, I think it was $24.5 million for the school. And I'm wondering, I had seen some things in the paper about a partial demolition to use some of the best parts of the school, including the gymnasium. And I'm just wondering how we come about with that $24 million.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I'll start it and then I'll defer to Mitch to fill in what I missed. So we actually had a facility assessment done using Anderson Mason Dale, and that helped us do some initial estimating as we dug back into that, because the number was not at, I think it's 24.8 right now that we've put onto the bond question. It was not that high. We knew that they had not put in some of the interior work that had to happen. We've got $2 million for asbestos in there. We looked at demolishing part of it. That's part of the design process, but currently to demolish part of it, we believe the cost would actually be a little bit higher. We had to increase the number from the AMD initial estimate. With COVID, we've seen construction costs go up about 12 to 18%. And I should also be really, really clear that the 24.8 is to abate the entire building, get it down to what I would call kind of ready for renter finishes, but then it's really around the elementary school only. So one of the things we've talked about is bringing in infant toddler care, for example. It wouldn't pay for that unless we had grant dollars or extra dollars, or we'd really like to do a community kitchen, for example. Those are extra dollars. What am I missing with the 24.8?
You know, what we picked up between the 24.8 and the early numbers were just gaps. When we brought in the firm, they helped us understand the nuts and the bolts, but they really didn't look at what it would take to do a modern elementary school within that building. And that's just something the kids in that end of the county really deserve, is a modern, fully functional elementary school.
We also, since we had AMD do the facility assessment, brought on Mike Moonen, who is a consultant who's been helping us do some of the cost estimating. One of the things I learned in this last bond that was 5 million was that we have to be so thoughtful about planning and about contingencies, so that when you run into surprises like cars the size of boulders at the GCS playground, you have those dollars to take care of it. So I guess an easy way to say that would be the 24.8 came from the AMD facility assessment plus the 12 to 18% increases, plus the Mike Moonen and crew consultants adding in what AMD had missed initially.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, on the previous menu there, you had issuance and administration for $2 million plus.
Yes.
Can you address that, where that money, what that means specifically?
Yeah, let me go back to that. Oh. Yes, thank you. So that is partially for the issuance. There's a cost to working with our bond company, right? So we're using Stiefel. We looked at two, Piper and then Stiefel. So there are costs associated with going after the bond and bond legal counsel. That's part of it. And then one of the other things I felt like we learned in this last bond is we have got to have more transparency, more communication. And so we also believe we should have what I call a third-party project management company to task like my director of facilities, for example, with all the bond projects isn't realistic. And we want to be able to come to the board on a regular basis, as well as provide updates to our community and share with them, here's exactly what's been spent. Here's the competitive bidding process. Here's who bid, and here's the project status. That's got a cost to it. And so we estimated that for both issuance and administration. And then the contingency, which you see above it, I don't know if you were wondering about that too. When I first saw that, I was like, that's so high. But again, with such a big amount and with an older building, we've been advised to estimate a little bit higher, again, not knowing what surprises we might find in the middle high school.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, any other questions? So very, very interesting. Appreciate the information. The one thing or a couple of things, I know that obviously the track itself, I'm assuming housing, transportation, whatever, that would still, could that still go to those particular uses or one of those two uses if the school was used as the elementary? The elementary would not need that track area is what I'm trying to say. Is that
yes, correct? Okay. Yeah, our thinking is we can do playgrounds on the north side as well as have lots of great parking. And there's also some interesting talk really on the far side of the property about a potential student designed and co-built skate park. And I won't get too far into the weeds on that, but again, we're really trying to make sure we're meeting the needs of the community. And with the track, we believe, well, we know there's for sure enough room, and It's buildable. We had some initial work done to make sure we could put a bus barn up there. And then if the school becomes an elementary school, that works well, right? Like you're right next to each other. Or if housing seems to be a better suited project over there, awesome. Folks can maybe send their kids right over to the school, or if we've got infant toddler care that moves over there, that's another, we could have that located right there on that side of the building on the south side. That's been some of the conversation too. One of my favorite things that I probably shouldn't say, but I'm going to, and Mitch is going to kick me under the table, is I ran into one of the neighbors when I was out running the other day, and he said, we really need a dog park. And I went, ooh, what if we, with either one, right? Like, what if we had, I know I'm going to start like a major crazy debate now, right? Facebook will explode, but what if we had a housing area over there with a dog park in the middle, or even if it's the bus barn and there's a dog park next to it? He had the great point. He's like, there's not a lot of flat land. And so we all walk our dogs up and down, the sidewalks, and I feel his pain. So I thought that was a fun idea as well.
Yeah, so city council has been through some of that in the past regarding dog
All right,
parks.
maybe I shouldn't say
That's
dog park.
It's a spirited debate from time to time.
Sure.
There are other offsetting things, like the elementary school did move up here, and I know you haven't mentioned it, but offsetting revenue from sale of Carlson land, for example, and that property, which I assume would probably happen. And so,
Yes.
yeah, it's a pretty big discussion, obviously, that you've alluded to. And,
Yes.
So I guess, are there any deadlines in terms of decision making and so on that the Board of Education is looking at this point? That it's been discussed for a long time, and I'm just wondering if we're kind of reaching some decision points.
Well, it seems to me the citizens of the county are going to help us make that decision with our ask for the bond issue. If the bond goes through, we're going to renovate the building on Highway 103. And once the kids move over, that Carlson will be surplus property.
Right. And so,
And I would expect that when that occurs, and we're years away from that, if and when that occurs, I would expect it to be a collaborative effort between the Board of Education and the City of Idaho Springs. It's at a very important location for the City of Idaho Springs. And, so you're going to have interest in it. And the school board at that time will also be interested in not only monetizing it, but making sure that it fits within the community.
right. Yes. In terms of commercial uses. And yeah, that's a big discussion, important discussion. Okay. Well, yeah, there are a lot of moving parts on this, but you're right. The big decision point is election day. So we'll see where that goes. Okay. Any additional questions here? It is, I have two more subjects. Yeah, 6:21. We're really doing quite well here. We'll certainly have time for a couple more questions from anyone. Okay, well, Karen and Mitch, thank you very much. Appreciate the update on this and the board's thinking. And we may, gosh, election day is not that far away now, is it? So anyway, so we probably won't have another chance to discuss this, or maybe we will at a work session or a later city council meeting. But anyway, appreciate it at this point. This is
Sure.
very
Hey, Bob, it's Mitch. Can I throw out one thank you
Of
before we
course.
go away?
Please do.
Hey, recently I've had the opportunity to work with the staff at the City of Idaho Springs, and I just wanted to share with the council that it's been a really, I'll say it, it's been a rewarding experience. They've been helpful, they've been clear, and you guys have good employees, so continue to treat them well, please.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a nice thing to hear. And interestingly enough, this is similar to other reports I've gotten last week, as a matter of fact. So you're not the only one with that opinion, and that obviously makes us feel very good. So thank you.
Sure thing. Hey, thanks for your time today.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Next item, the library landscape project bids. And Andy, I assume you're the one that will be leading this discussion.
Yes, we wanted to come back to City Council with the results of the bid opening. And we received 2 bids for the landscape project. And both came in much higher than we were expecting. The lower bid came in around a little over 300,000. And you have information in your packet regarding that. And staff met along with the Haynes Architects, and we met with the low bidder to talk about ways to reduce the cost, perhaps to bring the cost down a little bit, to also look at possibly phasing the project. So you do have a memo that relates to that. And I'd like to turn it over to the Haynes from Haynes Architecture. Tim and Chris are here with us, and they can talk a little bit more about the detail. They were involved a number of years ago in the design process for the landscape project. And most recently, they've been working with, of course, they were working with the library district, and now they're also working with the city now that the city's taking over this project to get it implemented. And we had some adjustments to the design that was done over time. Those changes were approved by History Colorado. And also the project has been reviewed by our Historic Preservation Review Commission. So we're really ready to go. We just need to get some direction from council on how to best move forward, given that it came in a lot more than we were expecting. Of course, and you'll see this with our next topic on the agenda, that bids are coming back quite high on construction projects right now, and that's not a surprise. So I'd like to turn it over to Tim and Chris to give you a little additional information on this project, and then we can have some discussion. Tim or Chris?
Okay. Welcome, Tim and Chris, and Libby.
And Libby is also with us, the director of the library district. Thank you, Libby.
Go ahead. You're on mute.
Hello.
Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Like Andy said, we did meet together with Andy, the mayor, the contractor from Arrow J.
And John Bordoni.
And we talked about actually phasing the project. Really the highest priority we felt was the work that is associated with the library. So we looked at that as being a single phase. There are quite a few furnishings that were included in the bid. Those included the benches, the interpretive sign,
The bike rack. Was a flagpole included in that too?
No, that was not it. But anyway, we decided to pull those furnishings out of the project, and that would be provided by owner. So we looked at just the library itself, and we actually simplified the design quite a lot from when it was originally designed. And so that particular phase, per the AeroJ's pricing, that came in at about $204,293. So it's been reduced by about 100,000. And then also we looked at all the work that's next to the library. We have a couple of stairways that really require some attention. We've got the south stairway that goes down into the lower level. And then we have the main east stairway, and there's quite a few masonry repairs that need to be done. It's been about 10 years since we worked on this project. And so we decided with the city that that work should really be part of a maintenance budget. And so that work came in at $34,405. And then last but not least, certainly the work in front of the hose house is really important. But we thought that it might make sense to pull that out as a separate phase. And really, if the city can come up with some money for that work in front of the hose house, we'd love to, everybody would love to see that be done. And so that work came in at $50,760. So that's kind of what we're looking at. I guess I wanted to go back to site furnishings. I just wanted to add those site furnishings by owner would include the trash receptacle, the interpretive sign, the bike racks, the benches, and the book drop. So anyway, that's what we were looking at, Bob and council members, trying to kind of break it down into smaller chunks.
Okay, yes, looking at 200,000, at least for that part of it. That's much, what should I say, causes somewhat less indigestion, although ultimately the cost is going to be the same. Yeah, these bid prices take your breath away, everything we've touched, and I'm sure you've seen that firsthand every day. Libby, I'm wondering if you have any comments on what we're looking at in terms of this kind of phasing. And I think a book drop is probably a critical thing. I don't know if that would come under the city's budget.
Bob, I might add before Libby starts that the library is providing the book drop. So we would be, as part of this project, including the pad.
All right.
Am I right?
Seemed like a critical item.
Yeah, actually, AeroJ, they did include the cost. Well, actually, that was one of our questions. They did not include the concrete pad for the book drop in their pricing. So I think we'd want that.
Chris, in the meeting with AeroJ, they said that the amount of concrete required for that pad was very limited, and that it was only a couple $100 for the concrete at the most. So that might have been why they may have just been planning on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. Okay. Thank you. So Libby, any comments?
Well, I'm happy with the phasing of the project. I think that is a realistic way to go about the updates. As far as the bike racks and benches, we do have a grant from that Team Evergreen. So we do have some money committed to go towards that already, that the library has already committed to this project. I think it was $4,800. We received that pre-pandemic, and then the project was stalled. So we're happy to do that. I think the interpretive sign is with a larger project with the city is looking at down the road. And then the book drop, we're obviously happy to take care of. That's just required for library services, even if we have to deal with the cement pad ourselves. So I'm really happy with the way things are looking. I appreciate Haynes' critical eyes going through the bid and figuring out how to make this project feasible for you guys, council, and also for our budgets. So happy to see it moving forward.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And just to be sure, the $4,000 for the benches, even though that's a part of the outside, the exterior, which the city is responsible for now, that was earlier money, which is separate. And okay, and causes no heartburn, I assume.
No, I mean, it's just required by the grant. That's what we said the grant money was going to. So we're more than happy to have that go for this project. And I know Team Evergreen will be happy to see the benches for their cyclists and the bike racks for their cyclists. So I think that's a win-win.
Okay, we will all be happy about that. So Andy or John or anyone else?
I might add a couple items just to recap what the Haynes were describing. So what we're looking at, in essence, when you break it down, it's still a costly project. The bids are, certainly it's more than we were expecting. But if you break it down, we look at it as $200,000 approximately for the landscape project, related just to the landscape project. Then another 30,000 or so is needed for issues with the outside of the building, the downstairs, the stairs going to the basement, the stairs go up in the main entrance there. There's some pointing up that needs to be done with the brickwork. It just makes sense to do that at the same time, but that's really not part of the landscape project. So that's why we felt, even though it was included in the RFP, we felt that that should be broken out at least for analysis and discussion. And another piece of it, although it's right next door, is the front of the hose house, which is really not, part of the library grounds. Technically, we felt we wanted to do the whole project if we could, but that also makes sense to break out if we want to chunk it down. And it is still a usable area, very much so, in front of the hose house. It's gravel. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. It is gravel. John Bordoni and I have talked about putting some picnic tables out there to make it a little more of a gathering area in the interim if we decide not to do the whole project. So really, to be clear, working with AeroJ, the cost came down from the original bid after we analyzed it, looked at some savings, looked at, clarified some things, as often happens when you receive a bid. The total cost of the project all in is about 280 and some change, down from the 300. So there are some cost savings there overall. The other point I wanted to bring up is John Kane is prepared to submit a grant request to CDOT, another revitalizing Main Street grant request, if council would so choose. My understanding, and John could speak to more of the specifics, but my understanding is we could apply for up to $150,000 for this project. We did, as you may recall, we were successful in receiving a $50,000 grant. I believe it was last year, for some improvements downtown, bike racks, benches, crosswalk improvements, intersection improvements, pavement. And there's a very quick turnaround with that grant program. So, one of our desires, I think everyone's desire, is to try to break ground this fall before the weather turns, to try to get this project underway. And we wouldn't want to delay it by waiting a long time for a grant, but I think it might make sense, if, again, with council's direction, to go ahead and submit this application. And we should know, John, within a few weeks, maybe, whether we might get the grant. Is that right?
I would think within a month. That's about what it was last time.
Okay, about a month. And of course, we'd lose some time with that, but that is an option I want to point out we could do. Another is we could just choose to phase it with our existing general, improvement fund money, and get the project going, which I think is important, and I know everyone would like to see. So there are a couple of different directions we could go here, but I wanted to also mention the possibility of a grant, some grant funding for this project.
Okay, I'm wondering if it's like some grants, any city money we spend on a project prior to a grant being okayed cannot count as match.
That's right.
Case here. Okay.
Yeah, that's another downside, Mayor Pro Tem, is that not only would we have to wait a few weeks to hear whether we receive grant money, we'd also have to wait, although the state's much quicker now, we'd have to wait to receive an executed contract, or it might be, in this case, a purchase order, execute a purchase order from the state. So that is another consideration. Of course, then we're getting into late October, early November, which is
right.
We'd like to start.
Hey, Andy, you were talking, this is higher than we had originally anticipated. What were our original projections? Do we have any?
We really didn't know for sure, but we just thought, internally as staff, just thinking about what was involved here as a landscape project, flat work, maybe about, I think we were thinking maybe half or maybe 2/3 of that, maybe, perhaps. But again, to be fair, as we analyze this, we said, some of this really is assigned to the building. It's work that needs to be done on the building that we're doing at the same time. So really, we're down to about 200,000 for just the landscape work.
And then a question for Tim and Chris. How big of a driving force is the concrete price in driving the price of this project up right now? And is there any chance of relief of concrete prices in the future? I know nobody has a crystal ball, but.
Let's see.
I'm not sure what concrete prices are right now, actually. Do you have any information on how much a cubic yard runs these days?
No, I've just heard that concrete's fairly high right now.
Everything's high.
Yeah.
The landscape, the sprinkler system alone was over $30,000. So it's not a very large, piece of property.
Yeah, just looking at the breakdown on the bid that we got, the concrete for that first phase that we're talking about, just for the library grounds. And I don't know if you have this information in front of you, but that total was $15,440. So it's kind of a fairly small percentage of the total cost that was $204,000. And then for the hose house, we had concrete out in front of the hose house, in addition to a curb and some concrete work between the hose house and the library. And that total came to $33,495. So that's definitely a higher percentage of the second phase. But that's because that's a lot of the work. So yeah, I don't know if I don't know what the price of concrete is right now, Scott, but we just know that all construction prices have gone up quite a lot.
Yeah. I'm looking at the breakdown of the big ticket items on the big line items. The hose house concrete was 26,000. The brick pavers with the concrete slab in the 3 areas was 26,000 and change.
That's in phase 1.
Well, yes. Demolition, grading, and import and export of soil. And basically, there's not much import and export because the site's essentially flat and it's going to stay essentially flat. That was almost $25,000. It's just these numbers are kind of mind-boggling, but that's the way it is today. It's the new normal.
And this actually was the lower bid. We got another bid from Spectrum General Contractors, who Tim and I have worked with a lot, and we were happy to get a bid from them, but their number came in even higher. They were closer to 350,000. So I don't know, it's just kind of the state of the construction industry right now, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much the construction industry is going to stabilize and possibly material costs come back down a little bit, but that's a total gamble. I mean, there's no way of telling that. And I imagine it's hard just to get people to even bid the project right now.
Yeah, it is.
Steel prices are really high right now too.
And wood.
Yeah, well, wood was really high, but there's not much wood on this project, and wood is starting to come back down. But steel prices, they're through the roof. They've doubled or tripled in the last year. And I mean, there's a fair amount of rebar, which we could possibly remove the rebar from the big slab, and use welded wire fabric for the reinforcement for crack control. But everything's expensive. Unless you eliminate entire portions of the work, I don't know how else you can get the prices down.
Yeah, I mean, we really did simplify the design, which we like. We really are happy with it, but there's not a lot there.
I think you did a great job actually phasing this. I did an amazing job. I didn't think you'd be able to pull it off this way. It's looking good. One thing I'm wondering, John, in terms of turnaround, while we're waiting, hopefully prices are not increasing, the inflation. Well, who knows? Nobody knows. But I'm just wondering, the time is going to be money too, and to maybe have 150,000, toward the project. I'm just wondering, if we delay that amount of time if prices might go up. And I'm just wondering how much that time is for the quick turnaround.
The Mayor Pro Tem, the contractor isn't able to mobilize onto site right away. There's a little bit of a window there. CDOT grant I have mostly completed. It is ready for Andy's to go through it and just make sure everything is good. The pricing on there based on this, if that is accurate and we have the direction to go ahead and apply for the grant, is accurate. We have at least a 1-to-1 match on this project as well. And I've already talked to CDOT about the project, and they have told me they will likely look favorably on it because they have been supporting the marketplace. They're very happy about what we've done. We're already a community that exemplifies the revitalizing Main Street, the idea behind that program. So I think that we're going to score well, and I think that this grant could turn around fairly quickly. I just say a month because it's CDOT essentially, and they've got their systems to go through. But I think that we could potentially, if we're able to submit this application, it's a rolling basis application, so they can start review right away. I really don't think we're going to have a very long turnaround to get that money back to the city, and we can start doing projects. Basically, we knew we'd have to execute the grant and all that kind of stuff. So once we have reached a certain point where CDOT tells us that we can proceed, I think we can work with AeroJ to get them mobilized as quickly as possible.
Okay, John, thank you very much. Yeah, it seems to me like a 1 month delay, even though the timing is not good seasonally, is probably worth it. That's a fair amount of money for sure. Okay, well, very interesting. So in terms of council action, I don't know if that's on the agenda tonight. Don't recall.
What staff would ask is just for direction at this meeting from council, whether to go ahead and submit the grant application, whether to go ahead and proceed with the project as phased, or what would be the thought there?
Okay, I didn't remember seeing it on the agenda for the regular meeting.
It's not. We're just looking for direction, not a decision, just a direction.
Okay, direction that we can do at this meeting, at
Yes.
the work session, presumably. Well,
Yes.
I'll just start off here. I don't know if that's proper for a mayor chairman, or I mean a chairman for a meeting to be first with his opinion, but I think the delay of a month is worthwhile. That's a lot of money. So, other council members?
I think we
I'm
should
all
get,
for putting in for the grant and phasing.
Okay.
Tim, Chris, great job. Can't thank you enough.
Yes.
But I
yeah,
think
great
the
job.
grant would take some of the sting out of that price.
Sure would.
Yeah.
Scott, I interrupted you.
Well, I was gonna say what Chuck just said is, yeah, get Jonathan started right away. That 150,000 is a big plus for this project.
I agree.
Yeah, go ahead, Art.
No, I just say I'm agreeing with the other gentleman, including I agree with Chuck. Want to make a note of that?
I agree also.
Okay, I think, and Jimmy, I see Jimmy smiling. Obviously, he's, I think, in there. Okay, well, I think we have our guidance, John and Andy, so
Right.
let's go with that. All
Thank
right.
you, and we will keep council updated on how things proceed.
Okay, well, Tim, Chris, Libby, thank you. And yeah, I think Libby is smiling.
On behalf of the library district, thank you so much. It's exciting to move forward. John, I'll help you out how I can with the grant, and just congratulations to you guys to moving the project forward and on hooking the plow. I'm so appreciative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on. The Public Works Facility Project. And,
Thanks, Tim and Chris.
Yeah,
You're
thank
welcome.
you. Yeah, thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
very
Yeah.
much.
It's good to see all of you.
Yep. See ya.
Okay,
Should we leave now?
Yeah.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
good night. Okay, we have, a little less than 15 minutes. I think we can cover this, the Public Works Facility Project bid. And Andy, if you want to go ahead and take that, and I know Tracy will have some input here as well.
Sure, let me go ahead and kick it off. This agenda item is regarding bids that were received for the first phase or the first project related to the Public Works facility, the new Public Works facility, which will be located adjacent to the wastewater treatment plant. It'll be on the other half of the property there, the western half of the property that was the former cement batch plant. And we received, I believe, several bids on this one. And again, the bids came in much higher than we were expecting. And we met with JVA and John Bordoni and the mayor to talk this through, to try to figure out if there's a different way to approach this project. And of course, there are different ways, but there are pros and cons. And in your packet is a memo from our city engineer, Tracy Lawless, summarizing our thoughts. And again, we're looking for some direction from City Council on how to proceed with this project. We did receive a $200,000 grant from DOLA, from Department of Local Affairs, for this first project. So we do have that grant money. And then the remainder of the cost of this first project would come from city funds, from the improvement fund. So with that opening, I will turn it over to Tracy to walk us through his memo, and then we'll open it up for some discussion and hopefully some direction from council on how to proceed.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Thanks, Andy, and good evening, everyone. As Andy mentioned, you should have a memo in the packet with your materials tonight. We did receive 3 bids on the project, which was good considering the bidding climate right now. And those bids were fairly close together. I think the high bid was a little over $1 million, and the low bid was $975,838. And that bidder was Buildings by Design. And they do a lot of this type of work. They have relayed to us that a big part of their portfolio is doing CDOT type facilities that are very common to, or very, very closely related to this type of project. So I felt like the bids were competitive, although all of them were considerably higher than expected. I had kind of braced myself for some higher bids, but did not expect bids to be in this range, I'll be honest. We did meet with Buildings by Design and talk through their numbers. They were very open with us. I have to commend them for that. They did not have to share that information with us, but did, and presented some of their thoughts with respect to potential ways to cut some costs. So in the memo, I mentioned 3 alternates that were kind of the higher dollar items that were discussed. The first item would be to basically remove the storm sewer piping, the underground piping, and carry the stormwater on the surface in concrete drainage pans. That's a potential. I won't say that I rate that high on my preferred list, but it is a way that could be done at a much less cost. The second alternate is to not export the excavated materials, to look for ways to reuse them on site. That was kind of alluded to in the library discussion. For whatever reason, that's a very expensive operation right now. The third alternate is to delete a retaining wall, which we actually put into this project thinking that we wanted to bolster this project a bit, make it a little bit larger and more attractive potentially. And that wall is back near your new wastewater treatment plant. It would extend to the south from your new plant and then extend to the west to the south wall of the proposed building. It really is more economical to build that with the building than to build it with this project. So eliminating that, I think, is probably a productive thought. The net savings that could be realized if all three of these alternates were considered, is almost $171,000, which would bring the project low bid down to just over 805,000, still substantially more than anticipated for this project. And Andy, I don't know if you'd want to share any of the outcome from the meeting with Clay Brown regarding maybe some potential additional funding that could be considered.
Well, we did speak with Clay Brown. He's the regional manager with DOLA that we work with on all projects such as this that we receive grant funding. And there are some options here. We could, we did just submit, as council knows, we did just submit an application for project 2 for $600,000 grant. This would be for project 2. So that would be actually basically the building. So we used to be able to apply for up to $1 million. The funding has been reduced because of the changes in the oil and gas industry in the last couple of years. So if we're successful, the maximum grant we would get from DOLA for for project 2 would be $600,000. And we feel pretty comfortable with that in talking with Clay. I think we have a decent shot at receiving that. Of course, staff and Tracy are quite concerned about, okay, well, what are the bids going to be for project 2, and what's it going to do to the overall cost of this project? So that's one thing that's weighing on us considerably. So I think the options are to proceed with project 1, perhaps at the reduced cost, some of the alternative savings that are mentioned in the memo, and proceed with project 1. Another thought, and we checked with Clay because we didn't want to get sideways with our grant award for project 1. We want to say, is it possible to just say, okay, we'll just bid this as one project, not accept these bids, and then rebid it as one project when we know the outcome of our current application? And we won't know the answer to that till the end of this year. The presentations, I think, are in early December, and we should know shortly after that on grant awards. We probably won't get the grant contract until maybe February. So it would mean groundbreaking in the spring. So that is another option. We have a couple of years to execute these grants, and they wouldn't look less favorably on us for doing that. This is being seen throughout the state. Clay told us it's not it's not really a surprise. I mean, it is a surprise, but it's quite common. So I guess again, we're just looking for some just get some discussion, some thoughts here, and then maybe some direction on which way to proceed. Did that cover it, Tracy? Was that what you were thinking? Was there anything I missed there?
Yeah, I thought Clay had mentioned that there might be some monies that could be perhaps obtained that could be applied to this project 1.
That might be
that's
another
not
possibility.
certain.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So we would want to pursue that should the council elect to move forward with the project. We would want to pursue that additional funding that may be available. Now, I don't recall the amounts that he had mentioned, Andy. I was trying to get out the door to catch a flight at the time of our impromptu meeting, and so I wasn't taking good notes. But I do recall he mentioned there was a pool of money he may be able to access and help out.
And I don't think he called it an appeal, but I think we could make a case for trying to get a little more grant funding for this project 1. I think that's what Tracy, what
Right.
you're referring to. And again, no guarantees on that. I don't think it's going to be a large amount of money, but it could help a little bit towards this project 1 if we want to go that direction. Again, we don't know the answer to that. We could make our case. Again, it might delay things a little bit again, And you have to always weigh that with these projects is the cost of time. But that's another option to proceed that way.
I think any other comment that I could make is pretty well going to mirror what you just heard in the library discussion. I'm not happy with the bids. I expected, again, the bids may come in high, but I was thinking in the range of 600,000 to 700,000 perhaps, and they were well beyond that. We did speak. 2 of the 3 bidders had representatives at the bid opening, and we had a brief conversation following the bid opening. And they both mentioned that they have seen bids at this range of twice budget, particularly in areas outside the Denver metro region. And we're really just right on the cusp of that here in Idaho Springs. So I think we're feeling the impact of that. I wish I had a crystal ball that would say that prices are going to bounce back down to where we have seen them here in another 6 months. I don't know that. Unfortunately, I really can't make comment on that. I will say that the costs that they shared with us were just high across the board. The storm piping to the water piping to the sewer piping, excavation. It wasn't just one thing that we could zero in on and say, oh, that's the culprit. Unfortunately, it was just the entire project was bid at that level. And they weren't alone with that. Again, we had 2 other bids that were a little bit higher than theirs. So ordinarily, I'd be very happy with bids that had this spread. Unfortunately, when they're this much higher than the budget, the happiness isn't there. I really don't know what else to share with you folks. I'd be happy to try and address any questions that you'd like to ask.
Yeah, I have one question. I'd like some comment. You seem to be a little hesitant on that alternate 1 regarding handling storm drainage. And I was wondering if I could get Tracy and maybe John Bordoni both to comment on that.
Well, I'll lead off and say that we really much prefer not to carry the stormwater on the surface. We're at an elevation and in a location that is not readily, it doesn't receive a lot of sun in some areas, let me put it that way. And so to carry surface water, even though we don't have a tremendous amount of precipitation in Colorado in general, it's still an issue with icing. And yes, it's at the Public Works facility. Yes, we should have equipment means of handling that. It's just not a preferred way of going about things. I don't know how John feels about that, but my preference would be to put it below grade like we've designed it.
John,
that being said, it is a substantial amount of money that could be saved.
Well, it's kind of twofold. Yes, we'd like to have it underground, but unfortunately, the whole rest of the site will not be underground because this just pertains to the area around the Public Works building where the other 3/4 of the property is still dirt. I think until we could hold off on this until we address the whole property for water quality and erosion control and storm drains. It's like anything. It's just like the library. If we put it off, how much is it going to cost in the future? And as far as reusing the material down there, most of the material came from the construction of the wastewater treatment plant that was wasted on site. So we're kind of dealing with that too, that was pushed off because of the cost of that project. And now we've got more to deal with, and it's a lot of rock and not a lot of material that people want. So we're going to have to figure out what we can do with that material in the future anyway. So that's kind of my take on it.
Okay, council. I'm looking at Scott, who's a little more familiar with construction maybe than some of us, certainly more than me.
Again, it'd be nice if we get supplemental help money if we knew what Clay was talking about. And then you were saying if we do project 2, that there might be money for project 2, but we could do it as one whole project, rebid the whole thing too.
That is an option, yes. And there might be some savings there with mobilization. I mean, council may recall the reason we broke it out into 2 projects is to try to get a little more grant money in a very tight when grant funding is decreasing and there just wasn't as much available. So it did work. We were able to get the maximum with that first grant for project 1, and now we're going after the maximum for project 2. So there was sense in breaking it out into 2 projects, but of course, maybe bidding it as one project, there might be some economies of scale. Do you have any thought on that, Tracy? You think there might be some savings with mobilization if we just bid it as one project?
Well, certainly comparing the cost of 2 projects to one, you're going to see probably some 10 to 15% savings just from that very reason, that the mobilization and bonding and other things that separate bids require adds that amount of cost. The other thing that I would throw out at this point in time is I really feel that particularly here, if we go forward with 2 projects, and project 2 still has several months before it would be ready for bidding. I think that we would want to shift and go to a construction management general contractor approach of delivery like we did on the treatment plant, and solicit and bring in a CMGC entity to provide pricing at this point in time and work toward locking that in. Have discussions about what we could do to alter the project if needed to bring it within the budget we'd like to see. And I just think that is a much more favorable approach right now with the climate rather than going with a hard competitive bid like we did on project 1. I think that was the right approach for this project, but in looking at the building, I think you'd be better served with that other form of delivery. So that being said, I think there would be some economies there, Andy. I wouldn't expect it to be more than maybe 10, tops 15% that you might say.
Yeah, that 10 or 15%, those are a lot of dollars as well. And so, I guess I don't know, any other comments from the council? Some interesting discussion.
So if we did one project instead of 2 projects, do we lose our power of how much money comes available to us, or?
No, not according to Clay. It wouldn't be a negative. We'd still have our 200,000 grant, and then we can still, we still would be eligible for another $600,000, up to $600,000 from DOLA. Total 800.
Good point.
It just seems to me like there could be a little cost savings bidding it once with one project instead of 2. I don't know if Tracy's opinion is quite the same. If we negotiate the second project, you said, Tracy, might be a better way.
Yeah, I think either way, Scott, if you wanted to combine them or leave them separate, I think that I would shift to that form of contracting for the work rather than going through a competitive bidding process. You would put out an RFP for a CMGC. It would be submittals that you would look at. There would be some cost information in that. And you would then select an entity like you did with Fisher on the wastewater plant. And then they would do some cost estimating. They would evaluate the plans, offer up what their thinking is with respect to potential savings. And I think we'd be more comfortable than going into the project with that approach.
And you think we could
the
do
other
that?
thing I should mention is that your bids on this project are good for 60 days. So you have a full 60 days to consider this issue. It's certainly not a decision that the council needs to make tonight. You can like as much of that 60 days as you feel you need to wrestle with the issues and maybe have some more discussions with Clay, perhaps even regarding the potential for additional funding and get a better feel for the likelihood of that.
And we could take that alternative approach if we did one project instead of two with a contractor to negotiate the pricing.
I believe you could, Scott. I think that we'd want to have that conversation again with Clay and get the assurance that that's acceptable. The treatment plant was done in that fashion. That was also funded through a DOLA EIAF grant, $1 million grant. And so I know that approach is acceptable. Combining the projects and retaining the 200,000 that you have now, I think I'd want to have assurances from the Department of Local Affairs regarding that.
Well, I personally feel like that's something we should give direction to and pursue as our choice, our number one choice, and go to Clay and see if that's workable.
Okay.
Yeah, any other comments from council? I'm agreeing with Scott myself.
So Mayor Pro Tem, if I'm understanding correctly, we'll go ahead and follow up with Clay on any additional funding that may be available for project one.
Right.
I did get the answer to that, which we don't have tonight on what that number might be. And then we'll come back to council with that information, and then we can then get direction about whether to proceed with two projects or maybe go with one project. Is that the consensus? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I was very happy to hear that 60-day window. That's good. Chuck, can you start to say something?
No, I was just agreeing.
Oh, okay. All right.
100%.
Hey, you were visually agreeing. Okay. All right. Any other comments? All right. Well, thank you. Okay. You have some.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you all.
Yes, Tracy. Thank you very much. Appreciate it a lot. And so, all right. It is now 7:09. Let's come back in about I would say 6 minutes here and go ahead and get started in 5 minutes, 7:10 right now. So at 7:15, let's reconvene into the regular meeting. So thank you very much, everyone. And we'll use the same credentials for both meetings, so don't need to sign off and come back.
Chuck, can you see the flag okay on there?
Jonathan Kane, I can see it, and I want to say thank you.
Okay, does it show the whole flag or does it cut the bottom off or is it the whole?
No, we
picture?
got the whole flag on there.
Okay, okay, good. I just wanted to make sure before we got serious on it.
Yeah.
John, it's even centered.
Ah.
It did very well indeed. Let's see, we got another minute and a half or so. Okay, it is 7:15. So I'd like to call the regular City Council of Idaho Springs meeting to order for September 13th, 2021. And roll call, please, Diane.
Michael Hillman, Scott Pennell,
Here.
Chuck Hartman,
Here.
Bob Boland,
Here.
John Curtis,
Here.
Art Cacavelli,
Here.
Jim Clark.
Here.
All right, Pledge of Allegiance, please. And touch flag there, John. There we go. Okay, I pledge allegiance
Allegiance.
To the
to the
flag
flag of the United States of America
America,
and to the
and
republic
which
for
is
which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I need approval of the agenda. We could have someone move to approve the agenda.
I'll
as
move
presented.
to approve the agenda for
Okay, a second.
September 13th, 2021 meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Sorry, Scott. Okay, we have a motion second.
Second.
And discussion, any changes? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Raise hand, be a good idea too. Okay, opposed? All right, go with the agenda as presented. And does anyone have a conflict of interest this evening that you're aware of? And okay, nothing at all then. Okay, good enough then. Moving on. Approval of the minutes from August 23rd of 2021.
I would
So,
move to approve the minutes from August 23rd, 2021.
okay, thank you, Chuck. Second.
A second.
Okay, that was Art. Okay, thank you, Art. Okay, any additions or, well, not additions, but corrections to the minutes? Okay, good as presented. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Unanimous. All right, approval of bills. And so need a motion for the bills for September 13th, of 13th.
I move to approve the bills for December 13th, 2021.
Okay, and second?
Second.
Okay, and that was Scott, I believe. Okay, any questions regarding the bills? Rick's back in the saddle, so I'm kind of waiting here. You have a good eye for questions, Art. I'm
No,
kidding
not
you,
tonight. I'm saving my questions for someone else.
okay. Your questions are always good. And
Well, thank you. You're very,
no,
you're very kind.
no, it's good. It's good. We need to analyze these numbers. Okay. With I think on that, let's go ahead with approval of the bills to September 13th and roll call, please, Diane.
Michael Hillman, Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes,
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right. Bills are approved as presented. Okay, scheduled public comment next. And John, you probably are the one that knows that, who's on there. And we are limited to 3 minutes on comments generally at this part of the meeting. So
Mayor Pro Tem, Michael Caser is here for public comment. And Michael, if you could just identify yourself to council and your address before you begin, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Mike Castor, and I'm at 2077 County Road 308 in Dumont, Colorado.
okay, yes, go ahead. Welcome, Michael. Go ahead.
Okay, this is in regards to the 4 Points project. And I feel that this zoning is improper. This is public property. It should benefit the public, not just the developer. The property is zoned as a park, and the same administration that zoned it as a park now all of a sudden is maxing it out as commodity real estate. This should be something special, not just commodity real estate. There should be parameters for affordable housing. The parameters that are in the application allow for a monstrosity next to a historic district. The scale is simply not been considered in fitting it into the neighborhood. The process is being insensitive, and it's one-sided for the developer. The 2 weeks of continuance that's being considered here should be used to make this more of a legitimate application for public benefit, and not just for the benefit of the developer, and not just to max out the site. And in other jurisdictions, and I've worked in this business for 40 years, other jurisdictions simply wouldn't go on with a process that started out not even looking at the drawings, putting the drawings off till later. And the way that this application is written, it simply just allows a monstrosity for the development review. So you get the picture of this thing and it looks like a giant and it doesn't fit there. And it says, oh, well, that's okay, because it was, that was set forth in the parameters of the application. So this process is simply not fair to the public and should be reconsidered.
Oh, hey, Andy, could you, thank you, Michael. Andy, I do have a question wondering what is the next step? It is at the Planning Commission, I presume, that they'll be going before the Planning Commission.
Yes, it did get recommended with conditions by the Planning Commission at the September meeting, Mayor Pro Tem, and it was scheduled for consideration tonight. The recommendation from Planning Commission on this project, but the applicant has requested a continuance to the next regular meeting on the 27th, the next regular City Council meeting. So that will be an action item, I believe, later on your agenda.
Okay, so there is a continuance from the applicant, actually. So
correct.
Okay.
I have a question. Are they then going to present their program to us? I mean, the gentleman that just spoke brought up a good point, because I wasn't at the last meeting, so I don't know, but it didn't seem very clear. They're looking for a change in the zoning before they present their program to us, or vice versa?
This will be a presentation of the plans for the project at a high level. And then it is, a part of this is the rezoning to plan development for the whole site. So yes, they will make a presentation as they did with Planning Commission on what they have in mind for this entire site.
Okay, well, I was gonna save this for Jared, but I'm gonna say it now because this gentleman brings up a point that came to my mind when I was reading all this, and I was just saying it. At this time, I would strongly recommend and suggest that we have a in-person meeting on the 27th of September, a discussion a discussion for the important warrant situation face-to-face to test the temperature of the community as well as the applicant and city council. And I know we've got the COVID to deal with, but I believe, and I've read several articles, and I even remember Carmen presented to us one time, the benefit when a situation like this arises of having a meeting so we can talk face to face, measure everyone's commitment or lack of commitment and the temperature of the community. And I think that's very important. And I think we should consider that. And if we can't do it, then I think we should wait until we can do it. So I want to put that on the table for my fellow councilmen, because I think it's very important that these type of situations get discussed, not in little boxes, but in person. And so, Jared, I just left you off the hook because I was going to ask you that, but there we go. That was
Okay,
that's,
so you're
that's what I was
speaking,
waiting for.
yeah, you're speaking to the meeting on the 27th then.
Yes, I
Okay,
am.
all right.
One
Okay.
thing I might, Mayor Pro Tem, mention on that point is on occasion in the past, we, as a city, have sought out larger venues. And I think that, and certainly this is a decision for council, but I think I don't know about the availability, but Carlson might be one option. We've had meetings there before. There are some logistics to that, of course. We'd have to make sure that public health weighs in on that, make sure it's as safe as possible, keeping distancing. The chairs might have to be spread out, maybe limit the numbers of people, but certainly it's a larger venue. There are some logistics also to consider with technology as far as live streaming. I think we could probably figure those out in the next 2 weeks. So that is, I think that is a possibility if that's something council would like to do.
It seems to me that's really worth looking at because it could be a pretty well-attended meeting as far as that goes. And certainly, I think Art has a good point. And with larger venues possibly being available, we need to take advantage of it. So let's explore that for sure.
Yep, I agree.
I think this is a really good suggestion on Art's part. And I also want to thank Michael Caster for his input this evening.
Absolutely.
So, okay, any other scheduled comment, John?
No, sir.
Okay, what about unscheduled comment? If that'd be John or Diane?
There's no one. Sorry, Diane.
Well, Mr. Kaser was signed up for unscheduled public comment, but we got him in.
Oh, that was, I thought I scheduled. Okay, I'm sorry. I kind of skipped ahead. All right, well, it worked either way. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. And so nothing under liquor licensing, planning and community development. Jared?
Yes, thank you very much. Before you this evening, I have an item. We've already kind of discussed it, so I will keep this brief, but the Planning Commission did review an application by 4 Points Funding for a plan development rezoning preliminary plat and plan for a mixed use development at the Block 57 former Gold Digger Field and Bus Barn property. So at that meeting, the Plan Commission recommended approval of this PD, which is, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit first, which is step one of a two-step process. So we're working on the PD first, and then after, or if the PD is approved, then we would be moving forward to the final development plan phase of the request. So this would be a two-step process. And that is one of the reasons why you do see the plans that are very high level and incomplete at this point in time, because this really sets up a framework for the development to then be followed at FDP. As I mentioned, though, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this item with conditions. Several of the conditions were laid out in the staff reports. Planning Commission accepted those conditions, but then at closer to the meeting, the traffic study came in and city staff had that traffic study reviewed by a third-party engineer. That third-party engineer did bring up a couple items, and we are working with our traffic consulting engineer, 4 Points traffic engineer, and the developer themselves to address those comments prior to the meeting on the 27th. And that is really the reason why they've requested a continuance of this item. Be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Jared. Any questions of Jared?
Oh, I apologize because this probably really is not our Jared, but I'm just wondering on our agenda with ordinance second reading, number 17, rezoning 3.3 acres. I'm just wondering if we should table that.
It is set for continuance.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Diane.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I probably would have run right into it and had somebody read that.
Along with ordinance 18 too.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay. Good point, Chuck. Thank you. All right.
I have one more question for Jared under other activities. It says proposed housing at the 2800. I was just, what kind of housing is he talking about there as far as, is it,
Yes,
I think I was told.
Absolutely. At the last city council meeting that I had a report at, which was a month ago, I had mentioned that the petitioner is looking into duplexes at that location, and that is still the case.
Still the same. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, Jared, thank you very much. Let's see, city attorney next. Carmen? Hello, Carmen. Okay, we'll come back to Carmen if she. Oh,
can you
there
hear
we
me
go.
okay?
Hello, yes, certainly can.
Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
No problem.
I don't have anything to bring before you, Council.
Okay, all right, thank you much. Okay,
You
we
bet.
have a couple resolutions this evening, and resolution 19 regarding a compensation plan, which I think has been pretty well discussed. So if when looking for a motion on this.
Sorry, Scott, you're muted.
I'll move to approve resolution number 19, series 2021, a resolution adopting an amended compensation plan for city employees and officers.
Okay, second.
A second.
Okay, discussion. He's been pretty well digested with budgetary concerns and so on. So with no discussion, all in favor, say aye and raise your hand, please.
All right.
Okay, aye. Opposed? All right, passed unanimously. Resolution number 20, resolution applying to the Police Department Criminal Justice Records fee, which was included in the packet as well. And Nathan, do you have any comments on that at all?
Sure, I'll make it brief, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, and apologies I couldn't be here earlier. This basically is a reflection of recent law that passed through the legislature that requires agencies to perform blurring and I say editing, but muting of things so that people's privacy can be maintained. And what we found recently is that when you have an hour of body cam footage, it takes about anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to actually of man hours to actually get this prepared for release. So what this resolution does is it adjusts our fee schedule, and in accordance with what the legislative requirements are for body camera or in-car camera or whatever footage that you're releasing as a police department. And I'll be available for questions.
Okay, I was wondering, did the state set the fee schedule amounts? They seem to be very modest, I must say.
Mayor Pro Tem, correct. They did not set the fee schedule. We basically, as a records fee, it just needs to be reasonable on a reasonable standard. And so we felt that was a reasonable standard at this point. I think it's a little bit generous on our part, but it certainly is nothing like what it was. We were just paying based on data is what the public would pay for. And that's not that's pennies on how much time it's taking to edit things so that we can actually properly release it.
Yeah, well, I think this is very friendly to the parties that are, needing this information, and that's fine on the part of the city. I was happy to see that, and we may, we always have a chance to adjust it later on, but.
Correct. And that's, again, this is a new law. So since it's a new law, I think this is a good starting point.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Nathan. Any other questions? Okay. Need a motion on resolution 20.
I'd move to approve resolution number 20, series 2021, a resolution approving an amended Idaho Springs Police Department Criminal Justice Records Fee Schedule and Application Form.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye and raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, and opposed? All right, thank you. All right, moving on down to ordinance, none on first reading tonight. Ordinance second reading, we have several. And so needing a motion for ordinance number 14.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 14, series 2021, an ordinance accepting the post-construction alignment of Colorado Boulevard.
And second, please.
A second.
Okay, thank you, Art.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think it was pretty well described in the packet as to what this is. I don't think it's, there's certainly no major changes. I guess I put it in the realm of tweaking the survey. It should not have an impact on anyone along the corridor very much, as near as I can tell from what I read. So is there any comments on that? Okay, pretty much a little administrative motion here. So, all right, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right, unanimous again. And thank you. Ordinance number 15, need a motion for that, please.
I move to approve ordinance number 15, series 2021, an ordinance amending section 2-3 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code to include the compensation of the city clerk and city treasurer after the November 2021 regular municipal election.
Okay, second, please.
Second.
Okay, Art, thank you. All right, any questions on this? I know this has been discussed at length as well, but this is a chance for a wrap-up discussion here. Okay, all in favor, say aye and raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, thank you. That passes. And let's see here. Okay, ordinance number 16. Need a motion on that, please.
I'd move to approve ordinance number 16, series 2021, an ordinance referring a ballot question to electors at November 2nd, 2021, regular municipal election concerning the imposition of a 1%, parentheses, 1% sales tax rate increase dedicated to water and wastewater capital improvements.
Okay, second, please.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Okay, any final discussion on this? I know we had a pretty spirited and long debate on this. And Art, any comments at all on this, or?
No, I'll be honest, I didn't read it before the meeting. I apologize. I missed this for some reason, but is it the conclusion of my fellow congressman? See, I just got voted up. But anyway, city councilman, that it's explicit, so they understand that they're not going to get double whammied. I mean, it's going to, the rate will be reduced, or I thought we talked about 2 years of no water increase or no sewer increase when I was at the previous meeting. Is that still where what we're shooting for? I remember the financial advisor suggesting that, I believe he said it was the sewer, that with this in place that we wouldn't have to raise the sewer tax, the sewer rate for approximately 2 years, unless I may be foggy on that, but that's what I thought he said. And then a modest increase on the water, if at all.
Yeah, there was a modest increase for sure, and I'm not sure about the sewer side, but I think what the main thing, the cost is going to hit us no matter which way we do it, but at least this gives our citizens a choice, to defer that cost or to share it with other people using our community.
Well, I don't have a problem with that at all. I'm concerned that with the other things that are going to be on the ballot, we really have to be explicit in our language, so they understand that, it's where we're going with this. And evidently in my brief reading here, it looks like we are.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
If we ask any questions, I guess we will have to be able to define it to the residents as well, because I think it's important that we get this through, because my question that was rhetorical, but it was serious, is if we don't get this approved and by some quirk, we don't approve a water rate increase, where do we go from there? And once again, that's rhetorical, but I bring it up because it's a possibility, maybe limited, but there is that possibility. And I just want to put that on the table, because things don't always go the way we think they're going to go. And we, as a council, could vote no increase, if I'm not mistaken, in the water and the sewer rates. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, yeah, certainly we could.
Okay, it's possible, highly unlikely, but possible. And so I'm just saying, I said to I don't know if he ever responded to that question at a later meeting or not, the financial director, but it's something, I work with the what if program, what if, and it's something we should be concerned about. But if this passes, there's no concern.
Yeah, well, we're dealing with regulation from higher levels of government, and it just gets more expensive. We need to. It's a long story. Tracy could probably address that at length, which is probably not the time to.
Well, I just wanted to bring it up for conversation.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Bob, what isn't the county? Are they? Isn't there another 1% ask on from the county side too? Are they?
I believe that's correct.
Or was it 1.5 even?
It's a 1% sales tax increase for road and bridge. That's right.
Road and bridge. That was it.
Road and bridge. Okay, and it is 1%. So we're talking about two. Through the county wide.
And also, aren't we going to ask to transfer the tax from the county to us as far as the marijuana transfer tax?
Yes.
But in that ballot, the word tax is going to appear after they read tax in these other two. And, that might start clouding the whole situation. And the one for the transfer tax is, it's very simple, and we all understand it. It's something that should occur, and there's no cost to the residents at all. In fact, it's a increase in our revenue, which would make it better. But when they see 1% tax from us, and 1% tax from the other, and then they see the transfer tax. I don't know what order they're going to be in. I hope the transfer tax is first. People just shut their minds down and say, "Oh, well, I don't want to hear anymore." So it's the wording and the presentation that concerns me.
That's how you sell it.
Yes.
Well, it's going to be an interesting election and a very crowded ballot indeed, and besides a number of other issues as well. Okay, well, we can vote on. Oh, I'm sorry, John.
Yep. My concern is this will take it from an enterprise fund into the general fund, which any new projects will have to be voted on by the people. That's my
a
concern.
major change.
Yeah.
You're right.
So that's just my own concern on it.
Yep.
Mayor Pro Tem, one thing I might mention is this week we are preparing a fact sheet for each of these ballot measures with pros and cons. So that will be something that will be available on the website. We'll make available to council and anyone who would like it. So, and the pro con will also be available to voters as part of information on these ballot measures.
We get that in the Courier also, or is that?
We can certainly try to get that in the newspaper as well. Yes.
Yeah. Andy, let me ask you about the fact sheet. Does it have the water and wastewater rates 9 years out? Because for me, that was the big difference.
I'll check. I know Raftelis is working on that. We did talk with them last week about it, and they're going to get a draft to us in the next couple of days. So we'll.
That's a great question, Chuck. I think that'll help on the. Showing you can see such the difference of 1% now, or 20 over the next X, right? Is that what you were referring to? Yes, Chuck.
Yeah, exactly. Because near term, it was something relatively inconsequential, like $16 or something. But 9 years out, it was literally going to increase folks, several $100s a year. It was very significant 9 years out.
Sure.
Well, it's certainly not in our specific control as to what happens, but what we can control is getting the information out to the public, and they're pretty aggressive, exactly. I think. And if we've done that after looking at all of the analysis and everything, and getting that information out to the public, that's what we can do and will do. And
Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Carmen.
Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to add one little point of clarification to what Andy said, and that is that the just to make sure we're all FCPA clear and compliant, the city can use and will use its resources to make available to the public and disseminate through ordinary means a fact sheet. Again, with very neutral sort of data and facts as you've described, Council, that you would like to see in it, and that the public will certainly appreciate having those objective sort of facts. In addition, folks may submit compliant with the TABOR's requirements, anybody, statements that are pro and con, as Andy said, in favor of or against. Those statements, those pro and con statements, are indeed usually positions of advocacy. And again, the city doesn't have control over those, and anybody can write those and submit those to agencies and entities that refer ballot questions. And someone's awesome job is to sift through those and put those in the little blue book that we get, right? And the TABOR notices that we get prior to an election. So they're distinct ways of comments to be in favor of and against TABOR ballot questions to be submitted, and a sort of a different avenue for sort of factual, pure factual sheets or informational promulgations to be done by the city. So I just wanted to, I know we as staff know, and we stay in our lanes and we know what we're doing and preparing, but I just wanted to make real sure for the public record that those are indeed two different ways to get information to the public. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you, Carmen. Yeah, Andy, I'm assuming that our consultant has done this neutral wordsmithing in a number of previous efforts.
Yes, it's truly a fact sheet. Yes.
Yeah, right, and takes it
Facts
out of
made.
the city's hands.
Yep.
So,
Well, I mean, it's coming back to the city, but they're going to prepare it based on what they presented to council already, the information about what the impact would be and what it would look like.
yeah. But their wording would be compliant with law, and even though
Yes.
they are our consultant,
That is right, and we will run the draft by our city attorney. So yes.
Yeah, right. So, okay, let's see here. Okay, we have a motion and a second. So, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed?
No.
Okay, one no. All right. Let's see here. We are skipping all the way down to the finance officer, which we do not have a report this evening, I believe. So, oh, I'm sorry.
If you could continue ordinance number 17 and 18.
Oh, I have to do that
27.
officially.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess I would just declare that we will be, I think we need to vote on those probably.
Right.
And okay. All right. Okay. Need a motion to postpone ordinance number, I've scratched it out, 17 until the next regular meeting of City Council. And if I could have a motion to that effect, please.
I would move to continue ordinance number 17, series 2021 to September 27th, 2021 at the request of the applicant. And it is an ordinance rezoning approximately 3.31 acres consisting of blocks 45, 55, 56, 66, and south of the city, formerly town of Idaho Springs plat, a portion of the Nanacrow Place.
Okay, and second, please.
NS 35 and portion. I'm sorry, what'd you say, Mayor Pro Tem?
No, I'm sorry. I was looking for a second. Interrupted you for your.
Oh, it's okay. And portions of vacated city rights of way within and around said parcels from P, parentheses, park and recreation, to C2, parentheses, commercial 2, to planned development, parentheses, PD.
Okay, second, please.
A second.
Okay, any discussion on this? I think we've done that pretty well. Okay, all in favor, say aye, please. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Thank you. Okay, ordinance 18 also being continued. So need a motion for that, please.
I would move to continue ordinance number 18, series 2021 to September 27, 2021. This was an ordinance conditionally vacating portions of 11th Avenue, Idaho Street, and alleyway in the vicinity of blocks 45, 55, 56, 57, 66, and south of the city of Idaho Springs.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, all right, I believe, let's see, whoever was first there, I'm not sure.
John Curtis.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, John,
thank
take
you.
it up. Yeah. Be my guest.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye, please. Raise hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and opposed? All right, passes. Thank you for catching that. I was just ready to skip right over that. It was an automatic continuance. I know better. Okay, city administrator, Andy.
Mayor and council, you have my report with no requests for action, please.
Okay, any questions of Andy from the council? Okay, Andy, thank you. Busy as usual, no doubt about it. Okay, city clerk, Diane.
Mayor and council, you have my staff report for your review with no request for action, but I should note on the sales tax report that that's the biggest sales tax we've ever received.
An enormous increase. Yeah.
Amazing.
Phenomenal. Yeah, I've had other people from outside the city look at that and say, good grief. It's amazing. So, all right. Thank you, Diane. Appreciate that. And that little heads up. I was not thinking of that sales tax report. It's kind of nice to get something really that positive. Nathan, Police Department.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, you have the staff report. We already took action on the resolution, so thank you. And I don't really have anything to add. I was just going to mention that I was able to participate in the event on Sunday at the Touch a Truck event down at by the quarry, which was very well attended. I thought it was a fairly safe event. Everybody's outside, lots of kids, and it was really a neat event that the Rotary put on. So other than that, I'm available for questions.
You know, it's yeah, again, that event was not in the city but nearby, but it's neat to see the city police department there and represented and with the cars and so on. So it's really a good positive. I loved it, actually. So it was a good day. My grandkids were there too, as well as me. So
Chief, I just wanted to ask you, any progress on hiring? I noticed the banner up there and it's very visible.
Right. So, I mean, that's really a shot in the dark as far as doing that, but I figured why not? Because a lot of people drive by on the interstate every day. So why not? We're not really getting a lot of interest. There was potentially one person that was interested from Denver, but haven't heard back. And more to follow on that. We're really working hard to get our website up and running and get a little bit more robust website going. And I'm expecting that actually to be, hopefully, if everything goes well, done this week, because that's one of the first things an applicant's going to look at is a website when they start looking at looking for information about agencies. So it's been a project that's been ongoing the last couple of months. So, but outside of that, no. And I know that other agencies are in the same position. The sheriff's department's in the same position. The town of Georgetown is down 2 officers. So we're all really kind of fighting for the same people. And certainly attending the event like that on Sunday, you do that almost as a potential recruiting event too. If you can strike up a conversation with somebody and see if they're interested. So it's a struggle. In all honesty, it's been a struggle so far.
So yes, thank you, Nathan. Yeah, we brought that up at this morning's management meeting as well, and I meant to bring that up. So thank you, Chuck. I appreciate that. So, okay, let's see, Public Works, John.
Mayor and Council, you have my staff report before you. I do also have one request for action, and that's to add to the engineering services already for 16th and Wall Street to add Colorado Boulevard. Based on the complaints that the mayor's received and from the citizens, we'd like to explore the possibility of putting stop signs at 16th and Colorado Boulevard. And this will require redesigning that intersection to move the stop signs closer to the roadway so they can be seen and won't be behind parked vehicles.
Okay, and I see Tracy is still with us, and I'm assuming that, well, I tell you what, let's go ahead and before we get into discussion, I got ahead of myself here. Let's have if I could entertain a motion here to approve that request.
I'll move to approve $8,000 to JVA Engineering, Inc. for engineering services and project coordination for the redesign of Colorado Boulevard at 16th Avenue from light item 2100-5103.
And second, please.
Second.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, Tracy, I'm assuming you have some comments on this.
Mayor Pro Tem, I was going to quickly share my screen. I think a picture's worth 1,000 words. What we'd like to do is install stop signs on Colorado at that intersection. And this will give you a visual of the stop sign that we have in mind. We want to make this as visible to motorists as possible with a flashing type light on the sign. It'd be powered solar, so it would be a self-contained unit. So no utility extensions would be required to facilitate this installation. At any rate, that's kind of the preliminary thinking. And as John had mentioned, we'd have to install bump outs on Colorado to locate the stop signs in and bring them out beyond the parked vehicles. Really nothing else to add. The cost of the additional services includes surveying at that intersection for the improvements.
Okay, any other thoughts about this consideration of controlling this intersection?
How come, why is 16th getting so much attention? Just that particular one?
It basically mostly has occurred since Wall Street started. And also there has been, and I'm sure that the police chief can attest to, that there's been several close calls at that intersection.
I think 12's worse.
I have a tendency to agree with you that there's numerous blind intersections throughout Idaho Springs.
Sure. I was just wondering if it was, one person that just drove 16th or something,
Yeah, this was part of the discussion also regarding the Habitat project, I believe. And we did indicate to everyone there was some question that the city may not do anything regarding this. And I think this certainly shows that we are willing to go ahead and consider all of these safety concerns that the folks were concerned about there, and we are as well. So I feel good about this follow-up regarding for that.
So we're going to do a study on traffic flows when we do this. This part of it.
We were not directed to do a traffic study on traffic flows.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Well, I've had that same point that John's bringing up. When we close off Minor, it has a huge effect on Colorado Boulevard. And I don't think we've done any kind of traffic study when we close off Minor Street, but it's got a huge impact on Colorado Boulevard.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and I don't know that especially right there at 16th. It seems you put them stop signs that close within 3 blocks of each other. It's like a racetrack from the start out at 13th, and then 3 blocks later, they're it's like a race to get that 3 blocks. You got to stop anyway, So it's doesn't seem to be traffic consistency when they're that close. I feel. I don't know. I'm not an engineer though. What do I know?
Okay, any other comments? One thing, this motion tonight would not preclude a traffic flow study that we might consider at the next meeting. And so it's something to be thinking about. But I think we do need to go ahead personally with this tonight and with an additional study in mind. We need to discuss it. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion tonight on
Well,
this?
I'm just wondering what Jim's saying. Does it make sense to do a bigger traffic study to see if that's the right spot to put the stop sign?
I agree. Scott.
Okay, that does make sense. There's certainly no hurry in terms of the development. That's for sure.
It's worth
So-
maybe discussing a little bit further. Maybe there's a better place to put the stop sign. I don't know.
I can contact the traffic engineer that we recently used for the 4 Points development and get a cost of what a traffic study would be for Colorado Boulevard. I think if we're going to do it for that location, we should just do it from First to the roundabout at the other end of town, honestly.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
I would agree.
Yeah, I'd hate to make a decision, put a stop sign there, and then we find out that's not the best place to have the stop sign, you know?
That's
We
fine.
definitely need more. That's one thing we definitely need more signs in our town.
Okay, well, we can go ahead and table this motion right now. And I'm not sure technically if you need to withdraw the motion in the second. So let's do that just to clean it up.
Yeah, please do, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you. I was
Okay.
just about to say that. What you could either vote on the motion and kill it, vote it down, or the maker of the motion could withdraw with the second's consent. Either way, you get to the same place.
Yeah. Well, somehow withdrawing the motion sounds a little more neutral to me at this point. So if we
Yeah.
can do that.
I'll withdraw my motion to move to approve the $8,000 to JVA Engineering.
Okay, and withdraw the second, please.
Second, was I?
Okay, all right, thank you. So that one is tabled for the time being, where you have our plan to follow up on costs and looking at a larger study than this. Okay, water, wastewater, John?
Mayor and council, the wastewater is moving along. They have started construction in the second basin. Unfortunately, that's about all I can tell you is have done most of the concrete removal of the walkways and the baffle walls, and they're starting to assemble the piping in the second basin. The first basin is running great. No issues at all so far with it.
Okay, terrific. All right, any questions of John on this major project for the city? Be nice when that's all wrapped up for sure. Okay, any committee reports? All right. Nothing tonight. I have no history lesson. I didn't plan on one, so we'll let that go for sure. Okay.
I have one question for Carmen, if I may.
Yes, please.
Carmen, if we do decide and we move the September 27th meeting to the school or some other neutral place, is there some defined period of notification to the public prior?
Sure. Really, we can and are advising the public at this meeting that there's a possibility of a venue change from virtual to physical, and certainly we announcing that date and notice and time and advisement to the public, coupled with the advisement to periodically check, the city's website and all our usual posting places that are at the city that we post notice of meetings under the Sunshine Law. That should be and is adequate notice, so long as it is reasonable and in advance enough to provide reasonable notice to the public. Is there a minimum sort of 14-day timeline? No, not in the traditional sense, because that notice has been provided of this meeting, and folks who are interested are no doubt listening and paying attention. So we as staff and you as council, I know, are committed to being as quick and transparent and public and getting out all manner of notices as we can, as quickly as we can, Councilor Cacavelli. So we'll endeavor to do our best, and folks who are interested, who are listening, please look at the city's website, call City Hall. If you are not seeing something at the usual places that you see notice in the next week or so, we'll do our best to give folks at least a week's advance notice, I think, Councilor.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, let's see. We'll adjourn until September 27th. So need a motion to adjourn, please.
I would move that we adjourn.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. All right. And we'll do a second on this, and then Andy has a comment.
Just to clarify, you're correct. The next regular meeting will be on September 27th, but we will have a work session next week.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So we did have a second there, I believe. Second moved and
second.
Okay, Scott, a second. Okay, all in favor of adjourning, say aye. Raise
Aye.
both hands and smile. Okay. We are adjourned as of 8:07. Not too bad. Okay,
Night,
thanks so
everyone.
much,
Good
everyone.
night, everyone. Have a great week.
Good night.
Night, everyone. Thanks, Bob.